Today, we go one-on-one with Ime Udoka. It's my interview on hard coaching, his relationship with Jayson Tatum and the rest of the players, and why he didn't get an ex-head coach on his staff, plus a lot more. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey, thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day, part of your daily routine. This show is free Monday through Friday, wherever podcasts exist. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed, and thank you to the people who are watching the show on YouTube. The show exists on YouTube. Make sure you're following Locked On Celtics there as well. Every episode exists on LockedOnCeltics.com. I'm John Karalis. I cover the team for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, which you can get a signed copy on johnkaralis.com, a signed copy for $30. You want to get it as a gift. You want to get it for yourself, signed copy on my website. I'm also one of the media voters for the 75th anniversary team. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code NDA. Go to your app store or download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Today, I'm sharing with you my one-on-one interview with Ime Udoka. It's just about 14 minutes of me and Ime talking about a lot of things. And so that's going to be segments 1 and 2. In segment 3, I'm going to react to some of the things that he said. Now, part of this I used for Boston Sports Journal. I had a one-on-one with Ime that published last week. A lot of stuff that is in this interview I haven't used yet. So you get to hear for the first time a lot of the things that went between me and Ime. We start out with the hard coaching, and we get into what that means and why that's worked. And we'll work our way into some of the why he assembled the staff the way he did. So let's get into it right now. My one-on-one with Ime Udoka. So first thing, it feels like you're getting like a little more comfortable with everything. Is that accurate? You know, you're out there joking with us. You haven't really joked with us in the media yet.
I mean, comfortable with, I don't know if that's the right term, but I think you guys know, pretty blunt, straight to the point, and so whatever. And that's just me. I mean,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think, as I told the team today and recently, everything's better when you win, regardless, for all of us. And so, if you want to have fun, the funnest thing to me is winning, and we talked about that, and so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously. It is fun to win, and you're winning. I see it as you're winning your way, and when you come in here, well, let's start with this. When it comes to coaching the guys, you talk about coaching the guys hard. What's your definition of coaching the guys hard?
Reiterating points that some people may let go of, the important, aspects that I talked about in the press conference or whatever, and winning those battles. Really, that's part of it, where habits aren't going to change overnight, and maybe not even conscious that they're doing certain things, but staying on those. And a lot of times the uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, or film sessions, or one-on-one individual sessions, a lot of times that's where coaches lose their team. And so reiterating those points, like I said, winning all those small battles and doing what is beneficial for the players. If not, you're doing a disservice by just kind of sweeping it under the rug when you see something. And so it's continue to hammer home those points, and then they're more receptive when they see the results. And it's obviously visually you can see the way we're playing on the offensive end and the results we're having from that, and let alone what everybody else is saying. And so I think hard to me is just hard conversations that a lot of people are uncomfortable having, that are very natural for me. And players don't mind it come from me. So
yeah, and those little battles are the real interesting part to me, because you've got a bunch of guys make a lot of money, they're on long-term contracts, and we know that coaches are the first to go. Obviously, you just got here, so there's a little less likely of that. But when you come in, how do you go about winning those battles? I mean, that you know that you are inherently at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's not something that's going to change overnight, and you have to understand that. Like, things take time and patience, and I don't like to say bad habits, because they're just habits that have got these guys max contracts, have got them to 25, 26-point scorers. So it's just what they're used to, but it's not always conducive to winning, big picture. And so helping them understand what defense is and what it, on a night-to-night basis, what it takes to defend at that level, play at that level, have that buy-in. And then offensively, I can give several examples of throughout my career as a player and coach of teams that did it one-on-one, and how easy that is to guard, and how the teams that play that team concept are much more difficult to guard. We see it on a night-to-night basis, and so that buy-in there is the biggest part. And I think the unselfishness trickles down, and guys enjoy each other's success, and so that vibe is what you're striving for. And so the things I talked about that are going to take time, I understand that. It's to me, it's a little mind-boggling to me that people don't understand that things that guys are doing since they're 15 years old aren't going to change overnight. But you continue to, like I said, hammer away on those points. And if you have high character guys like we do, they're fine. They're receptive to you coaching them. We have individual sessions and group sessions, and eventually over time, with the success, that stuff starts to trickle down.
Did you ever have a moment in the first couple of months where you lost any confidence in what you were trying to do here because the results weren't coming?
No, I said what I said was I was always optimistic, and I think it's funny because I'm one of the older guys on the staff. I think other than Damon, we have a younger staff, and it felt like at times they were kind of like, okay, and I was like, stay the course. My thing, I come from Pop, and what's his pound the rock. That's his saying. His whole thing is whatever it is, and probably part of my career being patient and having to grind things out. I understand the big picture approach, and so. With me, you always saw, like I said, we had a small sample size that showed success. When you're juggling lineups and rotations and all that, there's going to be inconsistency. And so you understand that the reason I was optimistic was because we were gaining big leads on good teams and losing those due to some end game situations, but also lack of continuity. So I looked at it as if we have our whole roster, which we do, the numbers show that we will defend well. And you look at our personnel, and that's why we chose to do some of the things we did defensively. The offensive end was more so like, okay, you're running Jayson into the ground because Jaylen's not here. Now, if Jaylen was here, or we made some shots that simple, those 25 and 19-point leads that we had that we lost those games, you're going to pull those out eventually. And so the fact that we were able to get those leads and defend the way we did with up and down lineups and rotations, that always boded well for me in my mind.
Talk about your staff. I admit, I was one of the people who said, Ime's a new coach. Might want to look at one of these old former head coaches that came in, comes in and is probably only here for a couple of years and give you that guidance. But you chose not to do that. First of all, why was that the choice that you made?
Well, partially with me, the guys I hired, I knew that was part of it, and so there was already a trust level and built-in, relationships there. And then the focus for me was more so relationship building with our guys, more so than X's and O's or the guy that's been there and done that. And so I've been around 10 years and played my whole life and lived basketball. So it's not a lot that I don't know as far as that, other than being in that seat, that you could take stuff from a coach that's been there. But more so, honestly, I did talk to Brad about that, and all the interview processes I've had, sometimes it was prerequisite that teams wanted a new coach to have an ex-head coach, and others were like, no. And I honestly talked to Brad, and he said something that stood out to me, where he had an ex-head coach in his first few years, and that can stunt your growth a little bit. And so I've seen on both sides as far as where I've been, whether it's guys having advisors and Steve Clifford's with Brooklyn this year, and Jim O'Brien was with us in Philly. And so, to me, it allows you to grow and try things. And a lot of times, older coaches are stuck in their ways, and you want to have a new, young approach. And I think that was more beneficial to me.
All right, the rest of the interview is coming up right after the break. And coming up, his relationship with Jayson Tatum and why it works with Jayson Tatum. Why was he able to get Jayson to expand his game? And he puts a lot of it on Tatum and the type of player and person that he is. You'll hear what he has to say next. First, let's talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. It's an award-winning app, and I've had a lot of people come up to me at the Garden talking to me about PrizePicks. They've gotten on it, they're hooked on it, and they love it. You will too. It's very easy to use. The simplicity is what makes this a great app and a great game. You pick 2 to 5 players and over under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you against the projected numbers. That's the big thing. You against the projected numbers and not you against some experts or whatever, and you've got to try to beat all of these people. Clearly, the deck is stacked against you. Over here, PrizePicks, you pick the over, you pick the under. If you are right, you win. End of story. It's safe and offers fast withdrawals. So you can use the award-winning app on both the App Store and on Google Play. So whatever prop you can think of, and you can cross sports. It's March Madness. You can go into college. You can go into the NBA. You can go into when football is back, college football and the NFL. You can mix and match NFL and NBA. But all of that stuff is available on PrizePicks. So, and for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive, absolute no-brainer of an offer for all Locked On Celtics users. You get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores 1 single point. Very easy to win this. They're giving money away. You got to use the code NBA though. Okay, it's an exclusive offer available for Locked On fans. Sign up today. Use the code NBA. $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePick entry scores a single point. So make sure you're going to prizepicks.com using that promo code, or go to the App Store, Google Play, use that promo code NBA. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. How about making Locked On NBA your second listen? I'm going to be hopping on for the Wednesday show with Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans. We have a lot to talk about. Kyrie Irving dropped 60. The Miami Heat struggled a little bit to beat the Detroit Pistons. Pistons are playing really well, and a lot more on the night in the NBA. A light night, but Jake and I will be talking about it, so make sure you're checking out the Locked On NBA podcast. Right now, we're going to continue with my one-on-one interview with Ime Udoka, getting into the Jayson Tatum relationship.
This is where it goes to, you're doing this your way. Your whole career, I mean, you've fought, scrapped for everything that you got. And now here you are. Is it accurate to say it like you've run this whole marathon and you're not going to let somebody carry you across the finish line at this point?
Yeah, and just honestly being confident in your abilities and what you have majored in your whole life. Like, there's nothing else. If it was anything else we're talking about, I wouldn't be as confident in what I'm saying. And so it's a full-time thing for me. And I've seen what works and doesn't, the goods and bads of different organizations, and always took notes as far as that. But not, and I would never be a my way or the highway type guy, because every meeting I want debate and discussion and argument within the staffs, and we kind of all come together in different ideas. So it's not as much my way or the highway. It's just we're confident in what we do, and I don't think I need an ex-head coach to validate some of the things we're talking about or doing or figuring out.
That confidence when you're dealing with a guy like Jayson. Obviously, Jayson comes in with a pedigree, all NBA, all stars. He's a pretty good player. Yet you challenge him to become more. We need you to be a guy who makes your teammates better. That confidence that you bring into the job and your career and all of that, is that what helps when you go to a guy like that and say, hey, what you've done is great, but now you've got to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I would say so. It's the fact that I played 2 playoff series against him as well, and know his game and have had some firsthand experience. But it's just being direct and blunt. And pointing out certain things that you see immediately. And it was no different from Pop doing it with USA, and some of that stuff that carried over is pretty easy to see what he is and where he can get to, and he hasn't touched the ceiling. So you point those things out, and, I did it with LaMarcus over the years, and other guys as well. It's you have to be careful how you word it. We're not trying to change you. What you've done has obviously got you all league honors and all-star and max contract and all that. And you have to understand that part of it. Guys are playing for certain things, but how can we take the next step? And your growth is a big part of it. And so whether it's adapt to how guys are guarding you, add to your game, whatever term you want to use. They don't like to hear change a lot, but you do have to improve and grow and learn. And so being direct and blunt with him with that is the only way I know how. But I would say the relationship we have and the character that he has allows me to do that. And so, like I said, you've seen the growth, and like I said, the best part is seeing the results. And so that stuff's all starting to come to fruition.
Was there any pushback from him?
Not at all.
Not one bit.
Not at all. And the things, like I said, the habits are not always a conscious thing. It's not a conscious decision. He sees three guys and I'm going to shoot over them to try to get some numbers. It's habits. I've scored 30 points on being double teamed my whole life. He got the size to get any shot off. And so it's more so the film sessions. Like, you see this, and like I said, when you have the character of your player, and that is not a conscious decision. Like, I'm seeing this guy but not passing. Those things can change.
Have you had any kind of pushback from anybody who's like, "Come on, Ime, what the hell do you want from me?"
No. I mean, like I said, with whether it's Jaylen or Jayson, they've all been great in the sessions. Like, we had a lot of one-on-ones, and it's every day. And I mentioned Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and these guys that Pop had for 15 years, where Tony would come off pick and roll, and there's a guy there, and he wouldn't pass it, and Pop would get on him for 15 years. Well, it's not intentional. He's just confident in beating the double team and doing what he's done his whole life. Manu never got to certain spots on the court like you'd want, but they're great players. So you take all those examples, and these things don't, like I said, they don't change overnight. And for the most part, they've been great. Asked for more, wanted to be coached more harder. And I think a lot of times when the other guys see you coaching the two guys the hardest, pointing them out. If I have an equal clip of Marcus and Jayson or Jaylen, I'm putting Jayson and Jaylen in it, because they need, they have the responsibility to do more. So continue to point it out to those guys, but nothing I'm saying in the group setting. I'm not saying to these guys individually.
I'll wrap it up because I know you guys got a plane to catch. But I will say, last question. When you take a job like this, it's just natural to envision, because obviously you've been in the assistants, but you've never been in that other chair, and you have a thought process of how you want things to go. How does reality compare to how you thought it might go?
You have to be patient. That's the main thing. You have to understand the habits that I'm talking about don't come overnight. And so your perception of guys from the outside to inside is always different. That's why teams trade for guys that you fall in love with. You don't see all their warts, but certain things I see with our guys in two playoff series with Philadelphia and Brooklyn, you don't really know until you get your hands on them. And so that's been the biggest, reality check is, okay, these are certain areas they can grow in, and you see it easily from the outside, but now how are we going to get to that? And so it's taken some time, but if all it takes is half a season, it means you have the right group. And I've said it from day one, like, not to talk bad about other organizations, but I was a finalist in Indiana and all these other places. And if you would have told me to wait a year or two for this, it would have been a no-brainer. And so everything works the way it should. And got a high-level group. I can't complain at all. And the expectations are a good thing for me.
Plenty to react to, which I'm going to do in just a minute. And I think this is what makes Ime a really good coach and why things have turned around. We're going to talk about that next. First of all, Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. I know that maybe this is the time of year where you're like, I'm not so sure about those New Year's resolutions anymore. But I'm going to tell you what, it was just 60 degrees outside. You're going to start heading back out there, and you're wearing less clothes. You can't cover up with the hoodie anymore. You want to get back into the gym, take a Built Bar with you. Built Bar is going to help you get into t-shirt shape and pretty soon swimwear shape. You're going to go to the gym. Built Bar is going to help you fuel up for that. Most of these are about 130 calories, 4 net grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, about 15, 17 more grams of protein. Check them out. Go to built.com, scroll over each one. They'll tell you how many calories and all of that, but that's basically what you're going to get. So you know that it's not too many calories. So whatever cardio you're doing, this isn't going to blow out that cardio. And the protein is going to help feed those muscles for when you do your lifting. It's going to help you really fit into those shirts better, that little t-shirt. You know, you want to get into that filling out. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to get that too. You're going to drop and do some push-ups. You want to get onto that bench press. You want to do some shoulder presses. That 17 grams of protein is going to help you fill out that t-shirt. I know it will. Go check it out. Go to built.com. And the best part is Locked15. That promo code is going to get you 15% off every single time. So buy whichever one you want. Try the mixed box. Sample a few different flavors. Figure out which ones you want. You don't have to go and spend. I'm not trying to get you to spend $100 right now. Go and get one box with the promo code LOCK15. Get 15% off that order. Figure out which flavors you want, and then you can go stock up if you want. So simple, so easy, no pressure. Use that promo code as often as you want. Scroll over the stuff on the website to see exactly what you're getting, and feel confident that Built bars are going to help you get back into shape. Built.com, promo code LOCK15 for 15% off every single time. So a lot stood out to me in this interview, which I hope you enjoyed. But I'm gonna hit on 3 things. 1, his approach with the players. 2, the relationship with Jayson and Jaylen. And 3, the way he assembled his staff. Number 1, the approach, the way that he is approaching his players, which is blunt, but not my way or the highway, is so super important in the NBA. I don't think people understand, and it's a constant thing that I'm trying to explain as best I can. People don't understand how coaching works in the NBA. People are, especially now, you see coaches March Madness and that level of coaching, and it's not quite the same because those players don't have any real power in college. And so it's a coach's league. Coaches kind of, and they're young men. They need to have some level, like they're not at a level where they're not making the money. I know you've got name, image, likeness and all of that stuff, but the money's not there. These are guys that are looking for something different. They need to have that guidance. It's a different dynamic. Once you get to the NBA, the few of those college players who do make it to the NBA, grown men making tons and tons of money. And I always say that the NBA coach is more of a middle manager in a lot of ways than, in kind of like a more coworker in a lot of ways than he is authoritative figure that is always like, I am in charge of you, like in college. Players, and you heard me ask it this way, players have like this the way that they have this power, and if you lose a team, it's so much easier to get rid of the coach than to get rid of players. And so the approach that he takes by listening to everybody, but look, being blunt, I think these guys appreciate. Don't mess around. Don't beat around the bush. What do you want from me? You A, B, C. Here's what it is. Here's what I want. Do what I want. Okay. Do you have an opinion on this? Fine. What's your opinion? What do you got to say? Okay. I like that, or I don't like that. And here's why. And that like direct nature is what gets guys to buy in. Again, the middle management. I know that when I'm working in an office setting, when I was working, especially when I was working in a TV newsroom and I was a producer, I had an executive producer above me, but I also had an assistant news director and a news director. And there were 3 levels of news making decisions that we had to go through. And the coach is kind of like the executive producer, where we had a good dialogue. And I'd say, I want this. And in my EP would say, well, we probably should do this. And we'd have a back and forth, and we'd settle on what the rundown of the show would be. But also there was an assistant news director who would probably be Brad Stevens in this scenario. And the news director would probably be the owner in this scenario. So there's a lot that you have to work through. Now, that manager, that executive producer, the head coach does have the final say. And if you have a good relationship, you work it out and you figure out why we're getting to a certain point. Here's how we want to do the show. Here's how we want to run our team. And so I make this correlation, and that's how I understand it. So maybe if that correlation works for you, then great. Then that's how you would kind of process it. But Ime has done a really good job of demanding things of his players. And when they say coach hard, it's this is what we're all in agreement, right? This is how we want this to be done. Great. If we're all in agreement, then this is how you do it. All right. Is everybody bought in? Great. Now work towards it. That's not right. Do it again. That's not right. Go into film session. Here's what you did well. Lay it all out. Here's what you did poorly. And you have to have that mix. And I think that whole thing is, I like the way he's approaching this with the staff included, and everybody has a voice, and he's very clearly the leader. I'm in charge. Everybody has a voice. We're kind of partners in all of this. We can talk a lot of this stuff out, but when we need to say one or the other, I'm the guy that says that one or the other. And that's working. And I think coming in and doing that from the beginning, having that Greg Popovich type of approach, learning from Pop how to be direct, but also care. And I think that's the big thing. And if there's a lesson from Greg Popovich, you heard a lot of the praises and retrospectives on Popovich, that one of the big lessons that Ime learned there is truly, honestly be invested in the players, care about them at a human level, and understand, like, we're here to work together for a common goal. And you'll make your money and you'll have your fame and you'll have all of the things that come along with that. But to get there, you also have to do this. If you do this, I will help you do that, and we'll all be great. And that's kind of where we're starting to see this go with the Celtics. And that brings me into the Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now, I talked specifically about Tatum in this because I thought Tatum, first of all, has been healthy most of the season. So he's been able to make the bigger jump, and he's just grown his game to a point where he's starting to see the game better and make plays. So Ime saying that it's Jayson allowing me to coach him hard and being the kind of person that he is and buying in. And when I said, was there ever any pushback from Tatum? And he said, no, none at all. Like right away, none at all. That's important. And maybe there might've been that I wasn't told about, but he was very clear, like none at all, really quick with the answer and believable with the answer, and I think this is where Tatum and his personality have kind of lent themselves to Ime. Like he wants Ime he gave Ime the stamp of approval. He has asked for a lot of what is happening here. And this is a great relationship for a coach and a player to have. If a team sees Tatum and Brown being coached hard, accepting that coaching from the head coach, then they will fall in line. We just had Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement weekend, and that is the epitome of what KG was. KG changed the culture in Boston because he bought directly into what Doc Rivers was selling. KG bought in, you bought in. Jayson Tatum was buying in, Jaylen Brown's buying in, then you better buy in. because these are the guys who are being paid the big money. You're going to be the guy that goes if you're not buying in. And so that relationship, again, and the way Ime approached it, you can't just say, we're changing you. You can't just come in and say, we're tearing this down, because these are guys already making big money and also looking for their next contracts, but all NBA guys, all stars, those types of players. And those are the types of players who have the potential to be, you can't tell me nothing guys. You can't tell me nothing about how, because I did this my way and I'm here. All NBA under my belt, all star under my belt. What are you going to tell me that's going to make anything different? So credit to Tatum, credit to Jaylen for being accepting of these directives, and for Ime being the guy that's going to say, look, I know how good you think you are. I know how good you actually are. But I've been around Tim Duncan and Manu and Tony Parker. I've been around Greg Popovich. Like, I've been around guys like you before, and I've won a championship with those guys. And here's how I know how to win with those guys. And the other thing that I loved that he said was, I've also had a couple of playoff series against you guys, and I know how to guard you. I know this is my game plan. When I was with Philly, when I was with Brooklyn, here was the game plan. And here's how you bought into that game plan. And if you want to let that be the game plan, then keep doing what you're doing. Or you can do what I'm saying. And here's examples of guys who invite the double team, who distribute the ball, who get rid of it, and make you hard to guard. So that all was really great stuff. And I will finish with my third point. The notion, and you heard me say it in the interview, the notion that he needed or should have had an ex-head coach on his staff is something that I thought that I said it on a podcast, maybe more than one podcast. I thought, hey, rookie head coach, let's get an ex-head coach in here, somebody who's probably going to get a job in a couple of years, but let's get some guidance. Let's get somebody who knows the drill and can help with, hey, these are the things to expect. And these, just a little extra. And it sounds good in theory. And some guys, maybe they do want that. But I love that Ime was like, you know what? I've been around. I've played in the league. When you factor in his college stops and all of the pro stops that he made and the coaching stops, this is like his 22nd, 23rd stop on the pro basketball journey. Like that's he's seen a lot. He's been around. As he said, I took notes everywhere I went. Meticulous guy, driven guy, basketball first, basketball middle, basketball last. And he said, the only thing I didn't know was like being in that seat. And you hear him throughout the course of the season. It's like, yeah, there's a lot more media, a lot more media availabilities. There's a couple of these things that take my time, but it's fine. I love when he said, we're confident in what we're doing. We're confident in what we're trying and what we're trying to figure out. And I don't think I need an ex-head coach to validate that. That's that. If there's anything with Ime, it's that confidence. And as he said in the interview, basically, if we're talking about something else, anything other than basketball, I probably wouldn't be as confident as I am right now. But I'm confident because I know basketball, and that's it. Ime, if there's something you should take away from this interview, is that when it comes to basketball, Ime feels pretty good about what he's doing. X's and O's, honestly, all the X's and O's have been out there. Every coach is coming up with little new wrinkles. And if Ime hasn't come up with a play, maybe he'll borrow a play from somebody else that works. There's always video guys and assistant coaches and People everywhere are watching games in high school and college, in Europe, overseas, international play, other NBA games, G League. Coaches, every once in a while, coach innovates. And as soon as that coach innovates, word filters around like, oh, smart. And then he gets back. Ime is going to innovate too. He probably has. I haven't seen what it might be, but they're all figuring it out. You've just got to figure out what part of what's been done fits your team. And then it's up to your team to go out there and do it well. So much of what happens on the floor is about the talent, the drive, and the execution. If you've got a team that just tries really hard, you're going to be decent at defense. If you try really hard and you've got skilled players, you're going to be good at defense. If you are trying hard, you've got skilled players, and you've got good coaching, then you're going to be elite at defense. And so a lot of that, but if you don't have the effort, you don't get to that elite. You need all three to be elite. So I love the confidence. I love the confidence in themselves, in the staff. I love the direct nature. That's always been my kind of coach. Don't play around with me. Just, what do you want me to do? This. Great. Let's go do it. And I think that's great. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I thought it would be worth sharing. I will be probably using some of the quotes here that I didn't use in future pieces for Boston Sports Journal as I talk about some other things. Just let you behind the curtain before I wrap this up. That's kind of how this works. Like, a lot of us who are writing, I have this one-on-one fully transcribed with Ime Udoka. It's in my head. There are going to be pieces that come along, maybe something that I haven't thought about yet, but the road trip, by the end of the road trip, there's something like, oh, Ime talked about this. Let me talk to this person, that person, that person. And now I've got quotes from Ime that are out there, and those can filter their way into future Boston Sports Journal pieces. So it's fun to talk to these guys one-on-one, and hopefully I'll have more one-on-ones to share as some practice opportunities present themselves. Celtics with 3 days off after the Utah game. When they come back, there should be an opportunity to talk to somebody then. So, and when I do, I will definitely share it on the podcast, because I love to share that stuff with you, so you can hear everything they say with their inflection and their context and all of that. So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I will be back with a post-game podcast after the Golden State Warriors game, very, very late. That podcast will probably be posting at 3 or 4 in the morning, maybe later, depending on how things go. But I will have a post-game podcast for you. So subscribe, watch the show on YouTube, and share the podcast. If you're a subscriber, a listener, a watcher, tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.